Welcome to Beyond Barber School. I am your host, Barbara Doza. This podcast, Beyond Barber School, is a space where listeners will hear stories from barbers, educators, and founders that are elevating the barbering industry in and out of the barbershop. Our hope here is to empower barbers with the knowledge necessary to take a courageous next step in their barber journey. Welcome to Beyond Barber School. Today, very, very excited. I say that in every episode because honestly, I'm just always excited to sit down with these guests, honestly. But today we get a chance to sit down with the two founders of SLCKR, Ben Johnson and Tyler Tracy. Met these guys on Instagram a few months ago, maybe it was 6 months ago at this point in time. I posted a story about SLCKR, gave them a shout out about just like innovative products in the industry, and they ended up replying. I think Tyler ended up replying, and then we actually set up a call. We ended up talking. Well, I talked to both of them actually, and it was wild. You know, you get a chance. There's a lot of awesome people in the industry, but when you get a chance to talk to someone, then you're like feeling like you're speaking the same language, you kind of have the same perspective and kind of same, I don't know, approach on what's going on in the industry. It was just a cool conversation. We just had similar perspectives on the current state of barbering. That ended up leading to working on a project together, and now going to sit down and have them on the podcast. So I'm just super excited. I've never met these guys in person, which is fun, but that's okay. We'll meet in person one day. It's going to happen. Well, let's get started though. Give us some background, Ben and Tyler. So excited to have you on. Give us just some bios. Like where are you two from? Not where you live now, but where are y'all originally from? And how did y'all two meet? How about we start there?
I so this is Ben speaking. I am well. I guess we're both like an hour outside of Philadelphia, where we currently are, and where Slicker's headquarters are at. Um, but yeah, grew up about an hour away from Philadelphia, and then we both went to Penn State for our undergrad degrees. And I will kick it over to Tyler to talk about how he started cutting hair in college, and that's how we ended up meeting and kind of where this all came from.
Yeah, so both like Ben said, Philadelphia suburbs. I guess for me, I didn't really go to a barbershop at all growing up. Where I was from, there was only really hair cutteries, sports clips, that sort of thing. Um, it didn't really have much of a relationship with my hair. My mom actually cut my hair for the majority of my life leading up to, I think, junior year. And there was an individual at hair cuttery or sports clips that was kind of pushing the boundaries there. It gave me my first fade and hard part. I think he actually got let go because he was taking too long in haircuts. But after that, went to my first barbershop, um, and was just really introduced to a different world. Um, the way you feel when leaving a barbershop, the smells of the barbershop, just something I hadn't experienced before. And I just remember having like a whole new set of confidence going into school that week. So that year I ended up asking for a pair of clippers for my birthday. Um, Started cutting up some friends and yeah, just butchering some buddies in high school. We end up at college. I joined a fraternity up there, and there's really no, this happens at a lot of college towns, and I think this is why a lot of barbers start in college, but there's just sometimes a lack of barbershops in these remote places. Um, so there were really no good spots up at Penn State. And when I was in the fraternity, word got around, I guess, that I had some clippers. I was cutting my own hair at the time, and I just started cutting people up for free, and then $5, $10, $20, whatever. I think I got up to 30 by the time I was leaving, actually, and that was like, people were not too
Wow.
happy about that. But I was booked out for a week or weeks, and I was like, well, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. But
That's awesome.
yeah, Ben was abroad at the time, and we ended up linking up when he came back. First cut him. I have some pictures of like the back of his head in my sophomore year bathroom and storage closet, which eventually became the next barbershop.
Nice.
Yeah, and we kind of would just talk about wanting to start or wanting to just take paths that were like non-traditional. We both didn't necessarily know exactly what we wanted to do yet. But I think the consensus was always like, oh, if you end up starting something or you have something going on, like, let me know.
Yeah, and to touch on that, I didn't actually think about that, but you didn't grow up going to barbershops, whereas like I did. I guess like in the fourth grade, I started getting like some fades from a barber that was in Pennsylvania, and then he relocated to Delaware. But yeah, same thing. I got like a hard part. I think in like the fourth grade, and I remember I went to like the school I was at. I just remember my teacher was like looking at me differently, and I was like, "No, this is cool. Like this guy who's cutting my hair. He's got sleeves. He's got these really cool haircuts, and he's like convincing me I should do these things." And I'm like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
But from going to barbershops, growing up throughout life, I always knew that that industry was very like entrepreneurial driven. Everyone wants to, they start cutting hair. And then the idea is, well, someone's going to open their own shop, become a business owner, fill out that shop with more chairs. Like there's a hustle to it. And I grew up around a lot of small businesses. One of the first jobs I had was a small business when I was 15 years old. So there was like a joy of doing multiple things at once. You're not kind of like siloed into doing one thing all the time. So, like Tyler said, both didn't really know what we wanted to do after school. I always had the idea that, like I wanted to have my own company or own small business, which at a career fair, you can't really pitch to like the consulting firms because they're like, well, that's not, we want you to do, what we sign you up for. So,
Yeah.
like Tyler said, just mention to him, if there's ever anything that you think of, I would love to lend a helping hand because he just saw the industry a bit differently than the previous conversations I had with other barbers. So I
Yeah.
thought that was fascinating.
There's so much we could unpack there that I could relate with. Shout out to all of the bathroom and storage closet barbers that were on their grind in the college days. It's the best. I remember actually, so I was in barber school, and right there's a lot of different types of students that are barber school. Some of them have never picked up a pair of clippers before in their life, right? Literally their first haircut in barber school is like the first haircut that they've ever given in their life. There's others that are just those hitters, garage barbers, been cutting since they're damn near 12 years old, right? And you're just like, you're amazing, I feel so insignificant next to you. And I remember there were a few of those barbers that I went to school with, and I feel like I had cut in college, right? But I feel like I wasn't getting a lot of street cred from them for whatever reason, from the garage barbers. They weren't giving me any love. And then I went to barber school in the town that I went to college in. And I had one of the students came in that was from the university, and I had given him a haircut in the bathroom, right? So he came up and was basically like, "Oh yeah, I've known Matt because he hooked it up with haircuts in the bathrooms in the dorms." And my classmates heard that story, and I like to say that that was the day I got my street cred. Was once they heard that I was actually on that grind, cutting in the bathrooms. They're like, "Okay, you're different. You've been doing this," and yeah, I feel like I got my flowers that day. So anyway, shout out to all the college students who are cutting in the bathrooms and storage closets. Maybe not the garage, but it's a different game right there. Okay, actually, let's talk quickly about school. What did y'all study? Like, what was your majors in university? Talk to us quickly about that.
So I studied economics with a concentration in business law, which looking back on it, it really had nothing to do with business law, but it was just this like more business focused concentration within the major. So it would just look at, like structures of corporations, or there'd be like different like labor economics courses that went into it. But economics basically just like decision making with scarce resources, which has definitely helped out a lot with my decision making as I've gotten older.
Sure, could imagine.
I studied industrial engineering with a minor in entrepreneurship and innovation. And those entrepreneurship and innovation classes were definitely like a very large reason why any of this got started in the first place.
Okay.
The industrial engineering major, there's definitely like processes that are important in our business now, but I'd honestly say Ben does a lot more of that stuff without even having studied it. Um, it's a lot of numbers and just not stuff that I was that interested in, but I kind of just did
Sure.
it for the degree because engineering gives you access to like a wide range of careers.
Yeah.
There were a lot of resources available to us at Penn State through that entrepreneurship minor. A lot of the classes were just project based, and generally the project was come up with a business concept, think on it, develop a business plan, and eventually like go do it for a lot of them. One of the earlier classes, this is how I discovered like blind barber back in the day, but I was like, oh, a barbershop bar, club, whatever concept. And I was like, it already exists. I actually tried to work there for a period of time. And then it got to a point where they were actually the one class gave like a $2,000 grant to just go and focus on your idea. And that's where we initially that was like first funding, quote unquote, where we started tech packing, started like bringing product closer to fruition. So that minor was incredibly important for starting this.
Nice. And you guys finished. You guys graduated? You guys got your degrees? Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up working for a year for in a sales role for a tech company called Oracle. So I actually had moved to Austin at the time, and I was in Austin when Tyler called me and was like, "Oh, have this idea," and then yeah, I just remember like working on that during the weekends, which was basically just like spending countless hours fleshing out like a business plan that again was mainly just to get the business off the ground, but it was exciting because you're like, ooh, all right, like I care about something, like let's work towards something, because again I did not love the job I was in, so I was like, no, this is the way out, some way, shape or form, this is the way out.
Yeah. That's one thing too. I'll mention is there are barbers that went to university and didn't necessarily drop out. Right, there is that story that we hear. Oh, I went to community college, wasn't for me, decided to go to barber school. Or oh, I was in university, didn't finish, wanted to go to barber school. But there are a lot of actually barbers in the industry. I remember talking to one shop owner in North Carolina when I was working for the booking platform, and yeah, had a degree. And we had a chance to talk about that. And so one thing, and again, I even want to show love to the barbers in the industry who did go to university, did even get your degree. I feel like it's, I don't know, not that it's taboo, but like I don't know how much that's even talked about. I would even love to talk about it more because there are such valuable things that I did learn from my university education that have largely influenced a lot of things that I've done. Um, and so, are there some things that I'm like, maybe didn't need it? Of course, but there's also other things that were huge, right, for my career. And that's right where all the clientele came from, was the
Mm-hmm.
dorms. It was the students that had just moved to a new city, needed a new barber, maybe didn't have a car, and yeah, they needed to get a haircut from somebody who was in the dorms that lived right next to them. So can be a great place to flourish, right? Even as a barber, like honing in on your craft and getting excited about the career. Hey there. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you're enjoying it and you want to learn more from my content, I highly recommend subscribing to my weekly newsletter called The Guideline. It's an email newsletter that's really the best place to stay connected to all things Barberdoza. You can sign up through the link in the show notes or go to my website at barberdoza.com. All right, let's get back to the show.
100%.
Okay, well let's talk about Slicker though. Let's transition. Got to talk about the brand. So, talk to us about Slicker, and like, what is the dream for Slicker? Like, what are y'all trying to accomplish as a brand? Talk to us about the dream, son.
In general, like elevator pitch that is or value prop that's here for the next 1 to 3 years. Um, you say elevated workwear for right now, the modern barber. We go back and forth on how strict to make that, just because there are people working in different industries, and we've even seen it as we've released new products that are purchasing our products.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we're just really focused on expanding our product line. I think for a period of time, when you start a business, there's a lot of time spent learning on how much you're selling, how much to order, how like what demand you have, and now that we're seeing that demand consistently and realizing that customers are getting to the point, some of them, where it's like wherever we put out there, trusting that and supporting. we really want to expand our product line and product offerings. So outfitting the barber stylist closet from kind of head to toe, expanding into the shop tees, the hair text line that we had released recently. Definitely exploring more cuts, more styles, more colors of that, and then building into other solutions that just again are fashionable and functional in the barbershop and out. Definitely our focus right now. And as Ben had mentioned, we do have a desire to have a physical space of sorts. That's been something we've gone back and forth on a lot, because I don't like necessarily at certain points wanted to like own a barbershop in the sense of like grinding and working in it every day, because I've seen what that could look like. But we do think we have an opportunity to really bring something to a city that we truly care about and can bring like offering that we've seen in different cities to here, while still having this workwear line and having basically a place to like market and sell that stuff and shoot content for that stuff, while also providing that shop experience. So
Yeah.
those are some of the top of mind focuses right now for sure.
I do think that I call it multi-use, multifunction, multimodality, or mixed modality, or maybe different phrases that are out there. One thing is that there's shops that are, it's not just a barber shop, right? It's a barber shop, but they also sell like a lot of clothes, right? Ton of merch, right? Or I think one thing that maybe we're seeing with like Los Cut It even is like the space that he just opened in Chicago is like a content studio mixed with barbershop. They're shooting a lot of content. So it's like there's these mixed uses for spaces that I'm curious to see if we'll start to see more of. I know it's actually very popular in the fitness industry right now, where you'll have like a yoga studio also be like yoga, but bar or spin, right? They're mixing multiple uses within one house, along with having like a smoothie bar with like a ton of merch, right? There's just like a lot that you can do within one space that are actually all revenue driving like channels to the business. So you're not just making money cutting hair, you're actually making money off of other kind of avenues as well to like sustain it, right? So that it's like, oh, how do we make rent? Oh, we have to cut X amount of heads. Like, well, not necessarily. We have to cut X amount of heads, but we also make money this way, and we make money this way, and we make money this way. So we actually don't have to cut as much, right? It's just different approaches. I think might be interesting to see. But shoot, man, if y'all had a slicker barbershop, it'd be freaking sweet. Pumped on
Yeah,
that.
100%. And like we've definitely it's easy to put yourself in a box when like operating a business, being like, well, could you only have so much bandwidth and focus? And because it's just been me and Ben for like a long period of time, it can feel like very overwhelming to be like, let's open a physical space. So
Yeah.
just trying to expand our like thinking of what is possible, and then put systems in place to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even going back to your place about like the experiential retail and these, I guess, stores that are multifaceted. For us being in Philadelphia, Philadelphia is obviously a good sized city, but it feels very tight knit, like all the creatives and the brands that are around here. So if we were able, obviously starting in Philadelphia, just to have one of these spaces that we could then use for like the community, like if it's a brand activation for like a smaller one, basically like being, for a lack of better words, like the bigger brother that would have been nice to have when we were like a small brand, just like, oh, let's give these people some spotlight or a chance to shine and do their thing, because that would just feel very nice and like community driven as well. And then being able to do that ideally in multiple cities as we grow those locations and just, be this community hub. There are a lot of brands out there doing it, even in the barbering space. Greater Good is a
Yeah,
good
shout out
example of
Jesse.
that
Yeah.
in Arizona. Blanked out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, they do a great job of just bringing artists together and activating community, because that is, I mean, I think that's what initially attracted me to barbershops too. Like stepping into whatever shop, and the fact that it's like an ecosystem for a lot of people locally. Like there's something really powerful there that I think can get lost, especially today, because like there's an interesting dynamic going on with the money making side, the charging side, all that like stuff, but also balancing that with community and that sort of thing. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Makes me think of your guys' phrase, right? Welcome to the community. Gotta go pick up that. Here's a shameless plug for y'all. Gotta go pick up that cape. I don't know if y'all are sold out, but it's a sweet looking cape.
We are, but we're gonna produce some more. That was a fun collaboration that we definitely want to reinstall. There's nothing holding us back, so we'll be restocking on those soon.
True.
For sure. We'll talk. Okay, Slicker though. Let's talk about the name. How did you? Because honestly, I've gone through the stress of naming something. Figuring out a name for a brand can be really difficult. So can you just tell us what's the how did you land on Slicker? What does it mean? Like, tell us about the name.
Well, the initial, it was like just brainstorming random words on notebook paper, and somehow ended up at like, I think our business name is still City Slicker Apparel.
I hated it. That's our like registered business name too, I think.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from at the time, but I think just like being in a city, like those are people that care about their image. Generally, you see more barbershops and shit in cities, but
Yeah, I think it's clever. It's not bad. It's clever.
yeah. But then we're like this from like a brand image point of view, especially is like we present generally as like clean, modern, like innovative. That does not match with City Slicker Apparel. So then we were like, all right, Slicker's not bad because like I don't know, Slicker, slick, whatever, kind of gives you a relation to hair, and it looked too long and it didn't look like something that would look nice on a shirt. So I remember I had like 4 different printouts of just like different iterations with different letters taken out, and yeah, it just started to like look good over time. So up on the wall in my bedroom, and eventually it was like, yeah, that actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I was also still in the tech space at the time, so I remember being like, no vowels is cool. Like no vowels would be great. And then like just seeing those just like constants together is like, all right, this is something like no one hates it. We like it more. And then like Tyler said, it kind of grew over time. So
Yeah, and I love it now. I have no regrets about the name. I think the name is great. I mean, some people will mispronounce it and say Slacker, but
we gotta find a way of like creating a pronunciation for it so people can be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what this is. But yeah, I'll wear like a hat around and like someone in the grocery store will be like, okay, Slacker. And I'm like, haha, I'm just gonna keep walking.
You're like you're not an insider. It does
You know,
almost kind of create that insider outsider piece where it's like, oh, you pronouncing it wrong.
yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah, kind of
which
honestly.
not necessarily a bad thing, you know?
We were trying to get the Instagram name, and there was one individual that hadn't posted in forever, and it was just like a personal page of Slicker. It was a bunch of pictures of him and his cat, and we were like really trying hard to get it, and he just never gave us a response. So that's where the Slicker USA comes from. But same deal, it kind of ended up like flowing.
Okay, so how do I say? Well, Ben, you're talking about this started as sounded like a weekend side hustle. Didn't necessarily dive in full time right away. Can y'all talk to us about that? Like, at what point did you decide, like, we're all in? Like, and how did you maybe make that decision?
at least for me, I remember. So this was also all happening right around the pandemic. So I'm now I was in a sales job. So now I'm doing sales from home, which is basically you calling and like, having meetings and like progressing deals, which kind of sucks when you're living like at home alone. So I remember thinking like, this is not it. This is not what I want to do. And at that point I decided I'm just going to like had made good money from it. I was like, all right, I'm just going to look up like random jobs in Philadelphia to be closer to a really good community I had here, but also like knew Tyler's family was around here too. So like just to be closer to this general area, and had gotten a job, not even a full time job, it was a part time job helping open a store that sold shoes, which was Allbirds. Not necessarily like the most attractive shoes, but it was like, oh, really fun, like fast growing brand. Gonna learn a lot from this. And because of the pandemic, Tyler also got pulled back from his trip abroad. So he was closer to home. At that point, all the stars kind of aligned where it's like, all right, I'm going to quit the corporate job I have to move to Philadelphia to basically just like make some cash on the side because he was still going to be in school, but at least we'll be closer to each other and we'll be, being able to get this business off the ground, which in hindsight's really funny because then I had to tell my parents that I was quitting my high-paying corporate job to go part-time sell shoes and start a barbering chest rig company. And they were like, all right, dude, you got it. You can figure it out for sure.
Wow.
They're proud now, but yeah.
That's okay. That's hilarious. They're like, oh, looking at you like you got 3 eyes. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to what?
Are you sure? But what is a barber chest rig?
Yeah, I was in Ireland at the time. I was doing an abroad semester there, and I worked in a barber shop over there while I was there. But I remember we were like, it was like pushing for like at that point in time. I think we had like a finished tech pack or having some phone calls with manufacturers, but it definitely was like waning during that period. And like I genuinely believe if the pandemic didn't happen, probably none of this would have, because I got called home from Ireland, was like in my parents' basement, playing Xbox for like 2 days, and then I was like, all right, I'm bored. I don't want to sit here and do this anymore. So then we just started doing like daily calls and working on like a business plan. And
Nice.
And linking, we met in person a lot too.
yeah, but still, like, I guess we went through, ended up getting samples, ended up getting the product manufactured. I think when it felt the most like a real thing though is we got into the summer founders program. That was a program through Penn State where they basically give you a grant to work full time. It's like you work 40 hours a week on the business, and you have weekly calls, weekly check-ins with advisors. It's like a mini accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just another like very important part, because when we launched it, we weren't selling shit. Like we were a company that no one ever heard of, with a product that no one had ever seen or used. And when we launched, our price point was like $220. And I remember launching, just being in my kitchen. I think we might have sold 2 the first day, but then it was the doldrums for a while.
I was going on a date that night, and then you called me right when I got off work. I remember like sitting outside just talking and being like, I don't know how this went. And I'm like, we're going to keep pushing. It's going to be okay. But yeah, to speak on that Summer Founders Program, I remember we were in like the final round interview for it. And a lot of the ideas that got accepted are usually like pre-revenue, but we were post-revenue. We had a physical product, and the person who started it ended up getting funding a while back from YCOM, and had been a very successful like entrepreneur, and is now like a really good angel investor. And he's older; he's in his 40s, I believe, has a family. But he just, like we're in the final round of this interview, and he's just like, I gotta be honest with you guys, this is like one of the dopest ideas I've seen. Like, I get it. I think this makes a ton of sense. And he's like an investor in like a bunch of different companies that did very well. And it was just funny to be like, wow, here's someone who's older than us, who doesn't necessarily understand the industry, but like gets it, and he's successful. So it's like, oh wow, this is like the most validating thing we could have ever heard. And all the other advisors on the call are like, all right, you can't like tell, like we have to, like we still have to vet them, all this. You can't just be like, this is the coolest thing I've heard. Like this isn't good. So it's just very funny and very validating to be like, oh, we have a business. This is kind of cool.
And in any like pitch competition or anything like that, because we won a couple of those, we just always had a chip on our shoulder, because we felt like we were trying to do something like cool and different and not exactly like sexy tech. So we definitely had a chip on our shoulder going into those, and winning some of those, it made us feel very good.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Okay, wait, let's talk about the rig though. How did you get the idea for the rig?
So this was when I was cutting hair in the frat basement. I was using a tool chest, like the classic Husky or whatever. And just every day, man, by the time I was done, the station would just be like, it looked like a bomb hit it. Like so bad. And I would consistently be like, I'm also not the most organized person in general. It's something I've gotten better at and I'm working on, but in the past, no. And I'd be asking clients, did you see this? Did you see this? Like just losing stuff. And I'm like, this cannot be efficient. And my major, like industrial engineering, you're doing like work studies, like literally watching a video of someone doing a work process generally in manufacturing and being like, is that movement efficient? Is it inefficient? How much time is it costing you? What does that result in from a monetary perspective? So I think that kind of like set the seed, and then um, I ideas sometimes for me just kind of like pop in, and I was like, oh, what if you just took the guard set, the like traditional wall guard set in the carrier, and like put that inside of a chest bag. And I had seen, especially a lot of barbers in like the UK, wearing like crossbody bags. And there were even some dudes in Russia that I distinctly remember this picture of, and they just have like, it's like an actual military chest rig, and there's just like 5 pairs of scissors just sitting in there.
It was a there was like one that was like a Louis Vuitton chest plate, so it's like someone's paying $1,200 probably plus dollars for that, and just putting bar controls in it.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
so like I think it was 2-part where it's like could confirm that there is a problem with time being wasted with inefficiency and organization, and then there's also an interest for barbers. I feel an interest in fashion, streetwear, sneaker culture outside of barbering, and I didn't see anything within the industry that I was like, I want to shop here, regardless of my affiliation with barbering, but it's for barbering, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where like the fashion and functionality piece comes in, where it serves the purpose of work, but it also looks cool and is a statement piece of sorts. Yeah, I would say generally that's where it came from.
And y'all were talking, right, when you launched, it was a slow launch. So was there a moment that you think things changed? Like, was it an expo? Was it just, I don't know, a post that went viral or something? Like, when was there momentum that kind of sparked it? Because now, they're flying off the shelf per se.
Definitely various moments.
Yeah, I would say the big one, I can't remember his name, but even thinking of those,
Jordan.
like, yeah, those like initial phone calls we had with, I mean, you probably explain it better than I think about it.
We got connected with this entrepreneur individual that was like super intense, had provided some mentorship for a while, but he was like, you need to like get in the DMs of these people, message however many people it takes you to have 10 phone calls a week, get on the phone with them, introduce yourself, and then straight up ask them to buy your product. So I would say that's how we got the sales train moving in the first place. We were literally, and it's funny because we still have these DMs show up where we might have sent this, it would have been in 2021, but it was an intro message of like, hey, this is who we are, would you be willing to chat? And some people did. We talked to them, they bought the product, but others will respond like 2 years later and be like, I missed this. Or even come up to you at shows and be like, you remember when you messaged me? I'm like, I don't remember that.
I don't.
But yeah, that just like ground and pound, like guerrilla marketing and just talking to people and asking them to support you was definitely the first thing that like made stuff move, because we were sitting on 250 units and we're like, did we just make a very expensive mistake? Like,
It also, yeah, just like goes to show that, because originally we thought we were like, oh, we'll just put these online, people are going to buy them, it's going to be dope, we're going to have like a cool business. And it's like, yeah, I remember even one of the teachers from Penn State was like, it's not going to be the case. Like, you can't just put something online and it sells. So I think getting gritty with it, and yeah, like literally coming up with a conversion amount just to be like, okay, we talked to this many people, these many sell, so here's how many people we have to reach out to on a weekly basis. That built just the framework to be like, oh, this is going to be harder than we thought. Like, we definitely got to put the work in or it's not going to happen. And that very luckily has carried through with us. Even when times feel slow, we just put our heads down, we push through, and then when things naturally start picking up, we have all of that previous momentum to build right back up off on, and it just keeps turning.
First Connecticut Expo, first expo for us was definitely the second inflection point. I think we did like the amount we would do in like a month or two in 2 days.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit, like there is interest here. And then there were also things we had to figure out with pricing psychology, things you learn upon launching. I mean, we went and had the product made in this small town in Spain, and they're doing like very small quantity, like handcrafted, um, like a Louis Vuitton type deal. But Louis Vuitton is pricing products at $400 for a wallet, and this market is, it's weird because they do spend a lot of money, especially on clippers, but
Yeah.
for other things, it's also very price sensitive. So
Extremely price
learning
sensitive.
like what is the willingness to pay for certain products, because they're not looking at a chest rig and thinking it's going to save me time or make my life easier. And it's not like, how is it priced the same as a clipper? You know, my workhorse. It's a complicated endeavor figuring that out.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. I'm super excited. The sales piece, man, it's like getting gritty. It's crazy. I mean, I definitely relate. Like I remember when I launched my like online course, like how to pass the barber exam. I was like, oh man, everyone's going to start,
Mm-hmm.
signing up for my course. There's a need here. Like I didn't get like any, like nothing happened. I was like, what the heck? This product is so good, and there's a need. I know there's a need, but that doesn't. A lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs might be like, that's it. It didn't work out. Move on to the next. But the true test is when, all right, how do you actually believe in this thing? Right? Like what's the degree that you actually think that there's something here? And then going back to the drawing board and coming up with a game plan to make sure that people are just aware that the product is even out there. Because some people, they're not buying it because they don't even know that it exists. Right? It's like
That's
they don't hate the product. They actually just don't even know that it's a thing. And so trying to just get more eyeballs even on it is half the battle. And if that means sliding into DMs, then that means sliding into DMs, right? That's just what you got to do. And that might not necessarily be obviously scalable in the long term, obviously, but if you're going to get going, you might have to get your hands dirty and do things just to get the momentum even rolling, and then obviously other marketing strategies will keep the thing going. But
100%.
that's awesome that you guys were in the DMs. That's amazing. Honestly, I would love to talk to the barber who got a DM and then didn't see it. And then how do they feel? They were like, oh man, I could have been there in the beginning. Like I could have been an early investor. And now
Yeah,
I'm over here, a couple years later, like, dang, they missed it.
there's still time for you.
There's still time.
That's true.
That is, and just quickly touching on that last point too, like even when we release new products, like the shop tee, for example, like does really well right when it comes out, then it might trail a little bit. And you just have to remember, oh yeah, like just because now we even have like a very like strong and like validated brand, we still have to put work behind getting new things out there because no one's used the shop tee before. No one really understands that it's like, hair stick resistance. So just getting back out there and being like, we got to make videos. We have to, you know, be reaching out to people asking for reviews on the website. Like now that the rig's doing its own thing and people kind of get that, like got to do it with every new product that comes out. Like there's always a level of, like you said, you got to let people know it's out there, like create
Yeah,
awareness. And
totally.
you'll always have to grind that through for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk operation, or not operations, but how you kind of work together as a team. Cause like y'all said, there's two of you right now. How do you create like zones of responsibility? Like, is it a lot of crossover, or do you have, I'm not saying y'all have like clear job descriptions with what each person does, but how do y'all divvy up like responsibilities?
We kind of do have, we're almost like two hemispheres of a brain, which also just taking a moment to realize how crazy it is we have this working relationship, because this is like one of the hardest things about starting a company, like just having a co-founder relationship. And like obviously we've grown a lot and like learned a lot about each other over the past 4 years, 3 years in business and 1 year of just like getting the whole thing going. But we really are just almost like there's like Tyler is the brains of the operation when it comes with like product, and also is just crazy talented with the stuff that you see on social media. Some people hit me up and be like, "Oh man, this video is sick," and I'm like, "I did nothing with that video. Tyler really just like found a way to make this work. Like
Yeah.
he's got that." So like creativity being one side of the brain, and then with like financial stuff and operations and even like sales things, like I've enjoyed doing that and I've had a background there. And going back to like the Allbirds experience, like working in a physical store and seeing how people process inventory when people make like inventory reorders, all that shit kind of got my brain going. So we just kind of found like what we do well, and we just kind of like do it together. And we obviously check in with each other to be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or how's this look? Or I'm going to order this much stuff. Do you think this makes sense? But for the most part, we found a pretty good balance with it, and now just figuring out as more stuff gets piled on our plate, how to scale that further. And then
Yeah.
if you touch on anything too.
Yeah, I think Ben pretty much nailed that, but it really is just left brain, right brain a lot of times, and I think we're both just with it and aware enough to like challenge each other and ask the questions that need to be asked. I think the difficult part is when you're like, okay, well, if we want to go beyond two people, then evaluating what is in your hemisphere, what you release, like that's the things that become difficult. Um, for example, like the social media stuff, like we had a lot of social media growth in like the last 3 or 4 months, just because we were just hammering out reels and it had some virality. But like editing a reel and posting that like 5 to 6 times a week is a lot.
Mm.
Um, but then when I think about in concept, like, oh, but handing that off, I'm like, oh, I don't know how I could do that, you know. So it's figuring out like those things as we scale, because it's just much more powerful when you have that number of individuals. Like we don't want it to just be us two for the long term or even potentially the near term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How was it with the intern this summer? I think you guys had an intern. What did y'all have him working on?
Oh, dude, that was so great. That was like the first time I realized, I was like, wow, there's like the classic phrase of you need to be working on the business, not in the business. And like Tyler said, like we want to keep our hands on everything. Like want to make sure that everything is dealt with in a way that like we approve of, whether it's like communicating with a customer, handling just even like a sale at an expo. Like there is a level of customer service that we want our people to receive. But it was really good because we were able to like when we onboarded Chris. His name is Chris. He's a rising junior at Penn State. We onboarded him with the intention of bringing him to Connecticut, and that was like his first basically experience with us was just going to Connecticut and just like selling there. And I was like, we need to have this trauma bond together by going to this crazy thing, so that way you'll just like understand the whole thing come Monday following, and you'll just be like, oh, I know everything that's going on. And that's exactly what happened. Like he was immediately, a dude that doesn't work in the barbering industry, but once he was thrown in, he was like, I get it. I get the customers. I get the industry. I get where like Slicker has an opportunity. Like this all makes sense. So he was great for that. And we had him working on a blend of like general operations things. So, reaching out to customers, whether it was DMs or even doing like pre-order outreaches or like review outreach. But also some like project-based work. We wanted him to get experience. That way he could use that to get like a upcoming internship his junior year, because for college junior year internships are really big, and he wants to do something in the consulting world. So having him do operational projects such as like an inventory reorder tracker for us, that him and I work together closely on, and also just like social media reports, like doing some analytical things, just stuff that he could go to an interview with and be like, hey, here are these like tangible things I actually did. And they'd be like, oh yeah, real experience. And just like sit behind a computer and do nothing for a whole summer. So long, long answer, but he did a lot of the stuff that we do on a normal basis, which allowed us to like work more on the business, and also just some like project based things that are going to allow the business to expand further, but also give him some like real world stuff.
There's you guys may be familiar, right? The Eisenhower matrix. It's essentially coming up with a list of tasks and figuring out which ones should you prioritize. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
what y'all are basically talking about. Like it's essentially like, what are the things that only I can do? If this is a thing that only I can do, then I should probably do it. But if this
Mm-hmm.
is something that doesn't require me, right? Like this is something that I could pay someone minimum wage to do, then like that's probably a task that someone else should do, because it's like what is now like my time worth? And it's like if this task takes me an hour to do, like what I want to work on the task that's going to make me the most, not money, but it's going to like actually be something that moves the needle forward. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so many times we end up getting caught up spending an hour doing something that feels like a minimum wage almost task. Right. And it's like, especially for a growing business, it's like if I can spend most of my time doing the things that are going to take us to the next level as opposed to just maintaining where we are, right? That's a huge way to prioritize. But like I guess how do you guys figure that out though? Because there's so many things that are on your to-do list. Like how do you determine what to prioritize like what's a today task versus like what's tomorrow or next month? Like what does that look like for y'all right now?
I think we revisit it on a weekly basis. That definitely helps. Like we'll have a weekly standing meeting on Monday, and then just talk through like, okay, here's what's on the plate, what feels most pressing and most important. Um, yeah, it's ever changing. Like one thing that seems really important that week, we could circle back on, and then the weekend meeting like and be like, maybe that actually gets pushed out, and it's not what should be a primary focus right now.
Yeah, and bringing it back to I mentioned beforehand, like my econ degree helps a lot with my day to day stuff. Economics is the allocation of like scarce resources. So like you said, time or like what is a me thing versus what is someone else thing. It's constantly the thought process. It's like okay, what needs to get done right now because it's the most pressing. And like Tyler said, those standing meetings are great because that allows us to prioritize. But right now we're at the point where a lot of our like daily to dos do take up a lot of time, which is where we're at in terms of like expansion, like having people come on board because if someone emails us with like a question or they have an issue with a product or they're just like generally very supportive and like have nice things to say, those have to get answered quickly because we want to be a customer service brand. Like we want to focus on the people that are helping out and supporting us, and
Yep.
those things will take up a lot of time. Or even like DMs, like we don't every single day we go through and clear out those DMs, so like we could get like 30 a day, and your message to us, it means a lot. Like we're going to answer it, and that probably takes anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours on a daily basis, and it's
Yeah.
important to us. So finding a way of expanding from there.
Yeah. Let's talk expos. How about that? I know you guys have had a few that you guys went to. CT happened a few months ago, but y'all just made a trip out to Colorado, right? You guys are in Denver.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How's it been? Like, yeah, just talk about like, the value of expos for you as a brand. Even I mean, you talked about it maybe being an inflection point years ago, but talk to us about like the trips now. Like now that you are more of an established brand, people know who you are. You probably have customers that are coming up to the booth who've never met you and probably saying what up. Like, how's it
Yeah,
been?
I think just the like genuine face to face interactions and being able to talk to people beyond like a transactional experience is super important. It also gives us the chance to connect with people that we have a lot of people that have become pretty good friends in this space that we've met through Instagram, been able to travel to expos with, like have them there, give them opportunities to showcase their work. And then it is just, I mean, even at every expo we go to, still there's still people that have like never seen or heard of us. So just talking to people, shaking hands is definitely important. They can be very socially draining because it's like you're talking to so many people on
Yeah.
one day. Like after the first CT every year, just your brain just feels like mush
Hmm.
after 2 days of that.
Yeah.
Um, but they're definitely very important, and we have some that we've done that we definitely have very much enjoyed.
Yeah, and from like a business standpoint too, it's really funny because expos are not very like profit driving events. Like if anything, you usually lose money on an expo because there's a lot of costs associated with it.
Yep.
And talking with brands like 245 or I can't remember who else we spoke with, but I believe it was Daniel was like, yeah, we treat expos as a marketing expense because we come out here, like, yeah, they sell a lot of stuff, but like they're flying a lot of people out and doing things that it costs them cash. So usually we're doing that, like Tyler said, to meet people, see them in person, and just like show up as a brand, even though we're not like making money off it. And the last thing I would say is it's also like a really funny part. Like funny is the right word, but it's like an interesting part of my life where like this weekend my friends are like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Going to Dallas on Saturday, but I'll be back on Monday. Don't worry." And it's just like there's such quick turnarounds, and it is draining for that point because you're also just on the road very quickly and back home and then back to it.
I think going to
Yep.
Denver too, definitely like Denver was such a beautiful place, and we previously we were just like, all right, keep it as lean as possible for shows, like lowest cost and just however much we could make, but like just appreciating the fact that we have a reason to be there and to travel to these places, even if you break even and you're at a slight loss. Like we got the chance to go to Denver to see Denver, and that's like a very valuable experience to travel and see new places. Like I guarantee you, if we were doing this, I wouldn't have seen a lot of the places I've been able to see at this point
Yeah.
in my life.
True.
Yeah. That's such a good point, right? You might think, oh, the booth that is there is making so much money on that day, but it's, yeah, maybe not necessarily the case, right? It is like a brand awareness piece, right? There's like marketing campaigns out there where it's like, what's the purpose of this marketing campaign? And there are goals where it's like, no, we're actually not trying to sell units. The main goal is to get brand awareness. Like, we want, there's going to be X amount of people that are at this expo. We're going to have a booth, and they're going to know who we are afterwards. They might not buy today, but they could buy later, right? Or at least they know that we're a thing. And
100%.
so it's, yeah, it's interesting to think about, what does success look like at these expos? Why does Tomb 45 justify flying out their entire team? Not entire team, but a lot of people from their team out to like California when most of them are based in Florida. You know, like there has to be a justification there. And it's not to say that they aren't selling a lot of units, but it's obviously coming at an expense. But it's part of a longer kind of
Yeah.
strategy,
It's
which is
crazy to
interesting.
yeah, it's crazy to see the like intangible or things you don't even think of when you go to these shows. And like a good example is we went to Rise of Hair in Florida, and there we met the Barron brothers. So we met Fade Culture guys. They bought rigs, and then what 4, 5, 6 months later, they do their first ever product review, and it happens to be the rig. And it's one of those things where like they're great friends. We'd like hit them up like asking for advice from time to time, or just like chop it up. But that's you just go to a show and you end up meeting one person or two people that then they're a connection and like they become a homie of yours down the line, which opens the doors up for a lot of different things.
Totally. That's where, yeah, shaking hands, you're shaking hands with potentially new clients. Yes, of
Mm-hmm.
course. But you're also shaking hands with possibly partners as well, which is huge, or mentors that you can talk to and bounce other ideas off of other entrepreneurs in the space. It's funny, y'all were talking about earlier in the conversation, that older mentor, I think at the Accelerator program, who told y'all that you had a great idea. I met Bossio for the first time at Clash of the Clippers in Iowa. And our booth was right next to Tomb 45. And I got a chance to meet Bossio. We were talking probably for about 30 minutes or so, which I was super grateful for. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I help barbers pass the barber exam. Like, I have an online course helping them to prep. And I'll never forget, he replied and was like, that's $1 million idea. And I was shook. Like, I was honestly shook. Because when you get a chance to hear like maybe encouragement from someone who you look up to, or someone who's maybe done this before, right? They've walked that path before. It can do so much. And that was at a time when I was like kind of doubting the whole idea, because I hadn't gotten a lot of sales. I was posting some things. Some people were haters. I had some people in my commented on a post being like, dude, it's not a big deal. Like, chill out. Like, people will eventually pass. And like, I don't know, the haters will get you down, man. It's hard, but getting a chance to meet, people that you look up to in the industry who are doing really cool things, have a conversation with them, tell them what you're up to, tell them what your vision is, what you're trying to accomplish. They might end up saying something that can really kind of give you the gas to keep going, when you maybe are doubting it. So can't talk about the value of expos, and getting a chance to meet people and what that can do. So it's definitely always worth the investment. The shop tee, though, I want to talk about the shop. How is the shop tee's response? Because it's not just the rig. It's the shop tee's out. Like, how was the response there from the shows for the shop tee?
Pretty crazy. I guess from the fact that the rig has 3 years head start on it, but now we're doing put all the shop tees together, and you look at like a 90-day period for both. They're like doing the same in terms of like sales figures, which is really cool. But also just and what we were hoping from it is to just kind of like open up our customer base. Like we say it all the time, where not everyone's going to want to get a synthetic leather chest plate to hold the tools throughout the course of a haircut. Like that's, Tyler says this very well. It's like a niche within a niche. Like the barbering community is known as like a small target customer base, but then you have like people that are going to buy the rig is like a smaller segment of that. So just having apparel that people can get their hands on and utilize, which opens up that customer base and allows us to, get in front of more eyes and like really show up as a brand for the industry. It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think I mean, when I had voiced like the concept in the past to people, I don't like it seems like a small thing, but it's really like it really is significant. Um, just the ability to have something that kind of a lot of times you're choosing between fucking up your good clothes in the shop or you're just dressing down every day because it's you don't want to you have your clothes that you mess up and they're meant for the barbershop. Like there's a very valid piece there that's like in the barbershop and out. Like having the confidence to look good in the barbershop and know you're not gonna destroy your stuff. Like how many other industries have workwear specific for them and the here it's just lagged. Like it just has lagged behind. So
Yeah.
um, the ability to introduce something like that on the surface might seem simple, but you take it and you dig deep into the problem and discover some like technical applications that you could use that actually make sense for your customer base. So we've had people purchase one or two and then come back and purchase 10 more and have it be like just their daily work uniform. So it
Totally.
has been really good and expanded our just kind of worldview of what we think we can do with the business.
And it also complements the rig though too, right? Like you rock both of them, right? It's like their uniform. Right? You have a
100%.
smock, but it's like, well, I don't need a smock anymore. Um, I got the shop tee. So the comparison videos that y'all have been putting out too, I think those have been pretty fun. As just like proof. Does it
Yeah.
work? You know, those have been, yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah, those all tend to do well. We're trying to, when you post a lot, it's hard to like generate new concepts. So we'll probably just keep getting more and more
Yeah.
extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also been cool just to my last bit on that is it's been cool to see people that don't cut hair, just like friends of mine that bought the shirt. And I saw my one friend was visiting from Florida 2 days ago. He was like, "Yeah, I packed like 4 shirts, one of them being this black shop tee, and I can wear. It's nice because I can wear this like 3 days in a row, and because it has that like moisture wicking bit to it, he's like doesn't smell." And I
Yeah.
was like, "This is nice. Like, I love to see the homies wearing the barber shirt around and about."
Yeah, it's awesome. No, it's so good. I think it's so unique. You know, you go to an expo and there's a lot of people selling teas,
Yep.
right? It's a ton. How do you stand out? And that's you guys obviously have a product that stands out. That there isn't another one that's like it. So, anyways, I think it's good. It's cool to hear. Maybe not surprising either though that you guys are doing that. It's doing just as well as the rig. Okay, we're running up on time here. I know I said this earlier. I was like, I feel like we might go a little bit long, but it's all good. Let's talk. Where is this industry headed? I want to talk to you all about that here before we wrap up. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think is next for the industry? Like, where are we headed? What trends are you seeing right now that you maybe paying attention to that is even influencing like maybe some of the strategies or things that y'all are working on? Is there anything that comes to mind?
At least from a, I guess I can't really say outsider anymore. No, they've been like working here for 3-4 years now. But at least as someone who doesn't cut hair, to me, what it looks like is the industry is moving towards this. I guess like I don't want to use the word elevated, but almost like an elevated feel. I mean, you have like the men's spires, you have all these people making their own like individual studio spaces, but they're doing that because they want to create these really like curated atmospheres. Everything feels like it's, I don't know. I guess I'll say like becoming cooler. Like it's not like the red, white, and blue barber pole type design. Like people want to incorporate fashion and streetwear and cosmetics. I mean, you're seeing all the skin masks and people doing like makeup. I mean, I think everyone's starting to care about their appearance and style that much more than they did beforehand. Where like the salon space beforehand was like the multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar industry that people spend so much on in terms of products. Like women care a lot about their appearance, and I feel like men are now getting that spotlight. And now there's this whole new trend of just like better self-care for men, which I think is pretty exciting and
Yeah.
just gonna make people even fresher. So be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I would say is I'll be interested to see how like work life balance and like treating your business as an actual business develops. I know you touch on that a lot, but for so long, like in this industry, hustle mentality is just like preached. And I I think with the world in general, a lot of that stuff is changing a bit. Um, and even over in the UK, like from working there, it's very different how they treat their profession. I think the hustle mentality here is why a lot of people get so burnout in this industry, because it's something that starts as artistic expression, and like then once you're attaching like so focused on a dollar amount attributed to it and the number of heads and the number of people you can get through in a day, like that leads to burnout really quick. So I think it's interesting seeing how people set up their business, create that space for themselves, and like explore what this profession can be for them, because it is unique in the sense that like it can be a fast money thing for sure. It can also allow you to like create flexibility in your life, travel with your career. So it's just interesting to me how that work life balance stuff will develop in the future.
It's good. That's it. That's a great point. Right. I do. I think I don't know. It's just this touchy subject, even with all the 6-figure barber talk. Which not to say that it's bad, but like, yeah, if it's being talked about a lot, then people are kind of breaking their back to get there. It's like, what's the cost of it? But it's also like, you got to evaluate your lifestyle. Like, how much money do you actually need to maybe sustain your actual lifestyle, what you're trying to achieve? But also, then maybe it's, yeah, you're not breaking your back cutting as many heads. But like, I'll go back to even like the mixed use space. Like, I'll never forget when I was in barber college, Leche came and did a class. And one thing that Leche said was, he was like, yeah, the goal for my shop is for rent to be paid for by the products that we sell. And I was like, what? Like, how much is your rent? Like, you sell that much amount of product? He's like, yeah, my rent is sold by just product alone. And that's like, I was like, wait, what? I thought barbers make money off cutting hair. Like, well, yes. And also there's other things too that you can generate revenue off of. And so it's like, okay, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean breaking your back, cutting more clients. Maybe it looks like knowing about things like, well, what's your average revenue per client? That can also include the service price, but also could include the types of products that they're purchasing from your shop as well, to raise that ticket price. That also might mean that you don't have to cut as many heads that day. And so it's right. It's the business kind of strategies and things that can maybe provide more work-life balance, or it allows you to maybe clock out sooner and not feel as much pressure to be there, just because you maybe have thought about a more sophisticated like strategy to
Yeah.
make whatever money you want to make.
Yeah. And last point, because there's a lot of like, I think why people are attracted to barbering in the first place. It's like my own business, my freedom, this, that, and the third. But if your freedom is limited to like, are you free, or are you stuck to your clients at every step of the way, and it's hard for you to take off, or hard for you to spend time with your family or holidays, like that's
Yep,
something that hopefully will change. And obviously some of it's needed, but just more of a
yep,
meeting in the middle there.
definitely. All right, well, what can we expect from Slicker moving forward?
A further line of like fashionable and functional apparel for sure.
More frequent garment, or more frequent product releases too. That's definitely something where just like people want more, so we're just focusing a lot on products, spending a lot of time with developing that stuff, and more consistent releases, and just testing, iterating, taking risks.
All right, we'll end here with some advice, huh? So, Beyond Barber School is the name of this podcast, but I'd love for y'all any advice that you have, specifically though for barbers that are maybe considering starting their own business in the industry. Any advice for them?
You just gotta do it. Like at the end of the day,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
uh,
So
like
many times, so many times people said to us like, "Oh, I had that idea." Like if you have that idea, chances are someone else has that idea too.
yeah,
So if you want to do it, you gotta figure out a way to do it. Like the steps between A to Z are not clear. I think a lot of times we get caught up in trying to like know the whole long-term plan, but a lot of times like we have the internet, it's very accessible. There's a lot of things you can figure out by just looking things up and going from there, but it's just about taking action on it and not being like, I had this idea, you took it.
Yeah.
Okay, do it.
Yeah. Even with, like, we just placed a fat inventory order for more shop tees. And it's one of those things, like Tyler said, I didn't study industrial engineering. I studied economics. Like, I don't have inventory management background, but like sat down with him and I was like, here are numbers I put together. This is what makes sense. I think I know with like 80% confidence, this is like the right idea. And it's like, all right, we do it. Like, otherwise we're just going to fall flat or we're not going to hit what we want to hit. So we just do it.
And there's a lot of like entrepreneurial stuff where it's like minimum viable product, go out and talk to people that you think would be your potential customers. Like, figure out if there's a need for the problem first. And if you're going to just go with your gut and operate on that, just make like fail fast, make your risk minimum, and don't go and like probably don't necessarily do what we did and order 250 units without like really doing a test run. Just there's a lot of ways to get thrifty now. Like you see it with 3D printing a lot. I mean, the one company literally created a business off of that, off of 3D printing. So there's different ways to put that minimum viable product together, like validate if there's a need there and just start small.
Yeah, we could continue. There could be a part 2 on this for sure. That's great advice though. Just got to get started. I mean, it's even, there's things too. I try to like bring it back to what barbers are familiar with. And it's just like, once upon a time, you wanted to give a haircut and you had to just stop watching all those YouTube videos about it and eventually just pick up the damn clippers and give a haircut. You know, like you gotta just kind of learn by doing at some point, you know, and one of the biggest things for me, I think even that motivates me to do things is I think I have more fear of meeting someone, or I have more fear of seeing someone else do something that I had an idea for. Like just the thought of watching like a Instagram reel or someone on YouTube or something, or someone launch a product, and I'd be like, I literally had that idea. Like it's like, well, so what? Like, you didn't do anything about it though. That's the difference. And so how much does that suck? Has that sucked for me to actually see that? And it's like, that happens maybe enough times where you're like, I'm tired of this shit. Like, I just have to do it now, you know? And I'd rather not play the like shoulda, coulda, woulda game. I would have rather just tried it and know that it didn't work, rather than, you know, be an old man and be like, why this one idea, you know? And it's just the difference is just someone who actually takes action.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more piece of advice is to not be hard on yourself for whatever you end up doing. There are a lot of times, even like we'll be grinding, doing a bunch of stuff. And there's some days where you're like, I'm tired. Like, holy shit, we've been really at this for a little bit. So just like giving yourself some leniency, or if you make a mistake, just being like, I'm human. This whole concept of life is crazy in the first place. Just, you know, be kind to yourself, because you got to take care of your mental first. Otherwise, like, you're not going to be able to do the long hours or the endless road trips or this and that. So enjoy life, be kind to yourself, take some risks. You'll be all right.
It's good stuff, y'all. Well, thank you for being here. This is a podcast that I've been so excited about to sit down with y'all. I'm going to include contact information, obviously, for Ben and Tyler. If you're not familiar with SLCKR, make sure you go follow them. You can see their Instagram. You can go onto their website and see the different products that they have. Some of the products we talked about today, the rig and the shop tee. You also go to the blog. You might see an article that I actually wrote in partnership with them. So I'll give a shout out to myself for that one. And shout out to Moody for a wonderful interview. Really, really quality conversation with him. Good guy. All right. Well, thanks for being here. I got one more guest that's kind of on the radar and working on a couple others. These podcasts doing my best to get on some of the, what I feel are some of the barbers and brands that you all should be aware of that are really bringing a lot of value and elevating, honestly, the industry. And right here, we just talked to two who are elevating the industry, even through elevated workwear. I didn't plan on that working, but hey, that works out. So thanks for your time. Thank you for listening in, and we'll catch you all next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond Barber School. If you enjoyed it and want to learn more from my content, again, be sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter called The Guideline. My email newsletter is the best place to stay connected to all things Barbadoza. You can sign up through the link in the show notes or directly on my website at barbadoza.com. While you're at it, leave the show a review on Apple Podcasts. I'd love to hear what you think of it. This podcast, like everything I do, is made for barbers by a barber. I'm on a mission to enable barbers with business skills that will help them ultimately achieve their goals. Thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you next time.